Today, we are very pleased to speak with our 2020's TS Person of the Year, Jack Newton, to talk about transforming an industry. Welcome, Jack.
Thanks for having me, Jill.
It's great to have you. Just a quick reminder to the audience, if you have any questions, anything occurs to you during the session, don't hesitate to put it in the chat box and I'll come to your questions and we'll hear Jack's answers in due course. But I want to just kick off by inviting Jack to tell us a little bit more about yourself. So you're the CEO, you're the founder of Clio, real knockout scale and anchor of success company in BC's ecosystem. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us about you, your organization, and your amazing story.
Sure. So Clio got started 12 years ago. So we've been making a few more waves over the last couple of years for sure, but we're maybe one of those overnight success stories 12 years in the making. So it's been a long road, and interestingly, something that makes me feel battle hardened is that we launched Clio back in 2008, and we're trying to raise money through 2008, 2009 for our very first friends and family and seed financings. So I've been through one significant economic downturn, and raising money in the 2008, 2009 financial crisis was certainly challenging, especially when it had none of the tailwinds that we've seen for some cloud-based companies that COVID-19 has had. So yeah, it's been a very exciting 12 years for Clio. My background, by the way, is in technology. So I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in computer science. So I came to legal as a technologist and really saw the legal industry as one that was ripe for transformation. And I know that's the theme of our conversation, so I'll hit on that point in a couple of different ways. I saw legal as an industry that was, in a lot of ways, the last major industry to be fundamentally transformed by technology, and in particular to be fundamentally transformed by the internet. And if you looked at the way that lawyers were practicing in 2008, and frankly, even the way they were practicing in January of 2020, it looked a lot like the way they practiced 50 or 60 or even 100 years ago. And COVID is helping accelerate some change that we were hoping to drive in the industry over the course of the next decade. And really, I think what we've seen with COVID-19 is a decade worth of transformation happening just over the course of the last 8 months. So it's actually been an extraordinarily exciting time for us, because we're actually seeing our ability to accelerate and transform this industry on a more rapid timescale than we thought we would have been able to. So, I'm one of those people in your poll that responded that I was optimistic about our business, because I feel like COVID is one of the factors driving some long overdue change and transformation in the legal industry. And maybe just to give the capsule history of Clio's growth story, we founded the company back in 2008. I founded Clio with my co-founder, Ryan Govro, who's actually a lifelong friend. Ryan and I have known each other since we were 8 years old, and met in grade 3, and always had ambitions of, well, I shouldn't say always, but at some point in our friendship journey, started developing ambitions to start a company together and to build initially a lifestyle business. And that was our initial goal with Clio's. We thought, hey, it'd be great if, I remember some of our early financial models. If a couple hundred lawyers adopt this tool, this will throw off, $100,000 a year that we can divvy up and live off of, and that'd be a great success. And obviously, somewhere along the way, the growth trajectory really inflected. Our ambitions got bigger, and today Clio is the world's most widely used technology by lawyers. It is a 550-person organization today. We're headquartered here in BC. I'm here in my home office in Deep Cove on the North Shore, and we have 5 offices worldwide in LA, Calgary, Toronto, and Dublin, in addition to our Vancouver headquarters. But since March, like a lot of people, we've been working from home and fully distributed, and we'll probably stay that way for at least another half year or so. So yeah, that's the brief background on Clio and my personal story as it relates to Clio.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And so, just thinking about, well, what did you learn as a business, right? So, if you think about Clio, I mean, you've grown from a startup to a 550 person organization. Um, what did you learn along the way for Clio as a business? How has Clio transformed over the years?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think that in our own journey, I'd say we've gone through a couple of key evolutionary steps. I think one was thanks to one of our first angel investors, actually, a guy named Christoph Jans that invested in us, way back in those dark days of 2009. He really helped change the way that Ryan and I were looking at the market and the opportunity, and helped us realize that software as a service, like many industries, there's a winner takes most or even a winner takes all dynamic, and that you need capital to invest in that customer acquisition. And almost for a SaaS business, almost paradoxically, the faster you're growing, the faster you're burning cash, because all of those customer acquisition costs are front loaded, and you're going to be profitable on those customers over their lifetime. But in the short term, you're going to be in that J-shaped trough of loss, and you need financing to get there. So he really helped shift mine and Ryan's perspective from let's bootstrap this thing into, like I said, this lifestyle business, into a bit more of an audacious goal of building ultimately a venture scale business, and really swinging for the fences and aiming to be the dominant player in the space. I think we also got more ambitious, probably, on 4 or 5 years into our journey around what our mission was. We were pretty humble in our initial ambitions, which were really focused around can we build a useful tool for lawyers to get their work done more efficiently? And we, like many software companies, were seeking to find that product market fit and collaborating with our customers to help iterate and refine the product. And at one point in our journey, I know that we changed the frame a little bit and thought we're actually now in a leadership position, and our customers are looking to us to actually lead them into the future of what the industry will become, and to become trailblazers and to help point where the industry needs to go. So I think it went from maybe a little bit of a collaborative approach and asking customers what we needed to build, to a bit more of a leadership model, saying we know where this industry needs to go. We need what kind of transformation needs to be undertaken by this industry. We'll paint the way, and we'll develop the tools and technology to get there. But another key realization for us was really around there's more than just software in the mix to make us successful in this transformation. To truly transform this industry, we actually needed to transform the company in the way that we delivered our solutions to the marketplace. And that meant education, that meant webinars, that meant ebooks, that meant even real books. I actually published my first book called The Client-Centered Law Firm last year. And that's another piece of this transformation puzzle that is so important. And we launched 5 years ago it was actually 8 years ago, our user conference, the Clio Cloud Conference, which this year attracted over 4,000 attendees. And the goal there, again, is it's not just a user conference talking about Clio the product, but it's a conference attended by every thought leader in the space, and they're assembling to understand what does the future of law look like, and how can we realize that with an entrepreneurial mindset and the right tools and technologies to tackle this enormous market opportunity. And that was a real shift from a company perspective, in that we started thinking of ourselves a little bit less as a product centric company and more as a transformational company that was driving this transformation in an industry.
So I want to just focus on your customer for a moment, right? Because um, customer is king, queen, everything. And what have you seen in terms of your customers what they most value, or their dawning realization of how profoundly this could change their practice and their clients?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. One special role that I felt like we started to have as an advantage with our customers, and what they were looking to us for was almost like the kind of knowledge and insight that you might expect from a McKinsey or a Boston Consulting Group consultant. And the reason I say that is we get to work with hundreds of the best run, highest performing law firms on the planet, and we get to extract essentially what are best practices and how are they deploying tools and technologies to navigate this challenge. And there's a lot of customers out there that just want to be told what to do, and not in a at all pejorative way, but really in a best practice kind of way. They're trying to understand, how do I actually navigate this enormous challenge ahead of me? How do I avoid accumulating scar tissue that maybe other firms have encountered by making the wrong decision? How can I avoid making that same mistake myself? And they're really looking for a bit more of a prescriptive solution. And what we found to be enormously powerful over the course of the last 8 or 9 months is that the evolutionary staging that a customer had to go through was no longer something that they could punt on or put off until next month or next year. It was really a matter of survival to figure out what are the mindset changes and the tools and technology changes I need to make to survive and to navigate this new environment. And for us, that message really boiled down to something really straightforward. And it was the path forward is being cloud-based and client-centered. And we really felt that if you embrace the right tools and technologies, and you embrace the right mindset for how you design, truly from a design perspective, design the way you're delivering your legal services to your clients, there's an opportunity to really thrive here. And I think what's really important to note is, with this economic downturn, just like the 2008, 2009 crisis, will have winners and it will have losers. There will be firms that adapt really rapidly to this new environment, and they'll actually find an opportunity not just to stabilize their business, but potentially to really thrive in this environment. And then there's going to be firms that are stuck in the past and kind of clinging to some hope that we're going to return to normalcy in a month or two. And it's very clear we're still a ways out from that return to normalcy. And I think that kind of mindset poses a real risk for those firms. So we've seen what we call a mass evacuation almost to the cloud, where we see just thousands of law firms realizing that this shift to the cloud is really an existential moment for them. And if they make the right decisions in their business model and their technologies and change the way that they're working with their clients, there's a real opportunity to tap into what is still a very significant need in the marketplace, which is a need for legal services and a need for lawyers that understand how to operate in this new environment.
Yeah, it's so true, right? I think that's the only constant is change. And so if you're changing
Exactly.
in this environment, yeah, that's unlikely to work out for you. So listen, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about. You never like to talk about you. You like to talk about the company. You like to talk about the customers. You like to talk about the team. But let's just talk about you for a moment. And what is the most powerful quality that a founder can bring to the table?
That's a great question. I think at the end of the day, one of the most powerful things that a founder can bring to the table is, maybe I'll answer a couple of different ways, because I actually think there's a couple of pieces to the equation. But I think one of the most powerful qualities a founder can have is the ability to see into the future. And I think the further you can see into the future, the more powerful you become as a founder. And by the way, the more crazy you sound to people that are not as far along in tracking how things might evolve. but you don't need to see all that far into the future to have a really unfair advantage in the marketplace to create products that will really thrive and help, by the way, pull the industry along in that direction. And I think, some of the greatest founders we've seen over the last couple of decades, the likes of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, for example, it's really clear that they're able to see many years out, and they're able to build playbooks for their products and their teams that map out, a decade or more. And that power to see into the future and to see a trend that is underway in industry and just extrapolate where that trend is going to land. And to quote one of my favorite quotes, Wayne Gretzky, talking about skating to where the puck is going, not where it is. That's ultimately the superpower a founder can bring to the table in creating a new idea and pursuing a new idea. And I think the flip side of that is being able to create a team and a culture that can actually achieve that goal and row toward that future that you see. And one of my biggest insights in building Clio too, to that inflection point I talked about earlier, is maybe also realizing that you can help create that future. And I think this is a William Gibson quote, but the most powerful way to see into the future is to create it. Is really, I think, at the heart of what I see as a founder's impact, is to see the future and to drive the team, drive the culture to actually realize that future. And in doing that, you'll have the opportunity to transform industries.
That's fabulous. Okay, well, I'm gonna take you up on that offer. Okay, Mr. Future Seer.
Sure. Yeah.
So as we think about the next 6 months, the next year, the next 18 months ahead, and the tech industry in particular, and how do we drive our economic recovery from COVID, what do we need to be thinking about? How do we need to be thinking differently than the consensus view might be? What would be the challenge that you would put on the table as to what we need to do as a tech community and as an economy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think for one thing, the role of technology has only become more significant for the worldwide economy and therefore for the BC economy. And we have an unreasonable right to really win in the Canadian landscape and the North American landscape when it comes to attracting worldwide talent. And I think for all the talk we've had over the last decade or more around the tech hubs and how do you compete with the tech hubs of Silicon Valley, we've seen maybe the most profound change ever, and certainly a change that would have been very long coming if it would have been realized if it weren't for COVID, which is place matters a lot less than it used to, and we're going to see I think a broader diffusion of talent across North America. I think we're going to see investors and companies alike look outside of the borders of Silicon Valley for talent and growth opportunities. And a really natural place for their sites to fall is in BC. And I think we have a tremendous opportunity to attract investment and talent because we kind of have the ultimate mix of what I think individuals are looking for, which is a great place to live and a great community to be part of, and the technology infrastructure to tie into to do a job to do a technology-based job. And I think, like I said, BC has an unreasonable right to really pull out to the front of the pack when it comes to becoming a center of gravity for that tech talent. And I think there's negatives that go along with that, by the way, as well. I think for local tech companies like Clio and others, will be facing ever more pressure for that local talent. And I think one of the pendulum swings we'll see over the coming years is place is less important than it's been in the past, but it's still important. I think we're going to realize that the connection to other human beings, and just the simple act of gathering together and connecting with other human beings is going to be something that we all realize was a really important way of how work gets done. So another one of my, maybe not so bold predictions is that the world we're in right now, where a lot of companies are maybe leaping to, I think, saying we're remote only and we're going to be fully distributed and we don't need offices. I think we'll be up for a little bit of a rude awakening, and that we're going to have some of the inertia of the teamwork and the cultural fabric that was built when we had in-person office environments start to deteriorate a little bit, and that we'll need to find some middle ground between what our former life was and what a post-COVID life will look like. And we've got an early draft of what this will look like at Clio. We're talking about it as distributed by design, and the concept here is that there's a few concepts, but that we'll use offices less as true offices and instead treat them more as hubs, and there'll be hubs set up to facilitate on-sites essentially. And we're talking about this concept of on-sites being the new off-site, and teams needing some regular cadence to get together, but that we'll see a more spread out critical mass of employees. So I think this will be great news for more rural communities, for example. I think we'll see people living in more remote locations in BC and across Canada, but still tied into a hub location in a major city like Vancouver. So a few of my thoughts on how the world of work will evolve, but I think me, like a lot of CEOs, are looking at this as what will be a very iterative process when we get on the other side of COVID. And thankfully, we're now at a point, I think, where we can see a light at the end of the tunnel with all the positive vaccine news over the last few weeks. We're going to be trying out a lot of new things, and then just iterating rapidly on what works.
That's great. Thank you for sharing those ideas. It's really resonates with what we've heard in some of our other sessions. And something that occurs to me is that playing it safe is perhaps the new risky.
Okay. Yeah, right? Absolutely.
So as you were saying, when you and Ryan started off, your vision was a lifestyle business for Clio. Well, that wasn't going to work. You had to go out and transform an industry.
That's right.
Because that's a more successful path, right? And so I think the future is going to have to be bold. The future is going to belong to people who aren't afraid to go out and create what could be, instead of accepting incremental improvements on what is. So
yeah, and it's a great observation, Jill. And I think one of the things I've come to realize is sometimes what seems like the safe path can actually be the most dangerous path. And again, that what seemed like safe path of building a lifestyle business, was one ultimately that would have been fraught with a lot of danger when a VC funded competitor inevitably rolled into our space, and we would be left, maybe not on the sidelines with a nice small lifestyle business, but potentially steamrolled over by a better funded, faster moving competitor. So this isn't the case in every industry, but I do think that a bolder move that is admittedly higher risk, at least in the short term, is going to be what drives a better long-term outcome. And I think, the way you're connecting that also with how we're thinking about the future of work, I do think there's going to be some bold changes that need made, and companies that hope they can kind of maintain the pre-COVID status quo in some sense are going to see a real erosion of their ability to attract and retain talent.
I'm totally with you. Okay, so team on the call, this is your 5-second warning. Please raise your questions in chat, because I'm going to come to your questions in a moment. Jack, I just have one last one for you. And I know you're practically allergic to talking about yourself, but let's try again.
Sure.
How did it feel to be the winner of Person of the Year this year, to be recognized by your peers and by your community as a role model, and dare I say it, as an icon?
Wow. I don't think I've ever been called an icon, so I'll try not to let that fluster me. But it was really great to receive that recognition, Jill. And again, thanks to you and the BC Tech team for putting together such a wonderful event. And it was kind of neat on one hand, despite being a remote and distributed event. The energy was phenomenal. Some of the quotes that you highlighted, put on, and some of the butterflies of an award ceremony when the name's about to get written out or read out rather, were certainly with me. So it was, number one, a great slate of folks that were up for Person of the Year, and was honored to be the ultimate recipient of the award. And it just felt like a great capstone to a pretty phenomenal year for us at Clio. And we kicked off the year with the funding announcement, which was at the time Canada's largest growth equity round ever, and one of the largest, actually the largest investment in legal tech history as well. So, in terms of a validation that we were going in the right direction when it came to transforming our industry, a really great recognition. And Clio the prior year had won Anchor Company of the Year at BC Tech as well. So it felt like just a great capstone on a great year. I published my first book in 2020 as well. So it was just a great culmination to the year, and a great way to wrap up what had been a pretty phenomenal 12 months.
Thank you. Well, that's a great segue to one of the questions I can see in our chat. So Alex Greenhill is saying, love your bookshelf.
Yeah.
Right. Which of the books on your bookshelf, apart from your own?
Sure. I'll try not to plug my own book, but it's a great question. One of my favorite books of all time is fiction, but it's kind of tied into real history, World War II code breaking. But it's Neil Stephenson's Cryptonomicon. It's a thick book, but I remember just not being able to stop reading it when I picked it up the first time. And definitely a book that's influenced my thinking. And another book that's been really influential for me lately is this $1 Trillion Coach, which is the story of Bill Campbell and the way he just influenced so many Silicon Valley CEOs, and some of the ways that he helped the likes of the leaders at Google and Intel and other companies really succeed and transform their industries. So a couple of recommendations off the bookshelf.
That's awesome. And my hardworking team, some of whom are on this call, are going to be thrilled to hear that I've had a new idea.
Excellent.
What do you think about the BC Tech Book Club?
I think that's a great idea. I think there's some great opportunities to share thoughts on books we're all reading. It's not on my bookshelf, but it's actually on my bedside table. I'm really enjoying Simon Sinek's new book, The Infinite Game. Is a third book I'd throw into the ring for that newly created BC Tech Book Club. I like the idea, Jill.
I got to stop coming up with new ideas. We need to. but I really think that would be fun, talking to founders and successful entrepreneurs about what books they've found to be inspiring, and encouraging others to read it and share the ideas in the book. Okay, I'm going back to the chat. So a question from Patrick, who says, hi, I remember many years ago meeting you, Jack, at an event in Washington, D.C., and it was all about Clio and Lexicata.
Lexicata, that's right, yeah.
Okay, can you compare pre-COVID and now? How has your world of public speaking changed?
Yeah, great question. So Patrick, I think I remember meeting you at that event. So nice to connect again. And the world of public speaking and the world just of live events has obviously changed radically. We used to go to 100 trade shows a year at Clio, and these were legal conferences, what's called continuing legal education, where we, it was actually an important customer acquisition channel for us. So all of that obviously went away with COVID, but we've shifted to virtual events and have actually found that there's a lot of pros to virtual events. We held our first Clio Cloud conference virtually, our first virtual edition of the Clio Cloud conference back in October, and we had twice the attendance of our physical event the prior year. And what I love about virtual events is that it's actually more accessible for people, and you can actually increase your reach of that event. And I remember you commenting on the same with the TIAs, Jill, is this idea that you don't need to travel to a central location. You can actually reach people that are maybe in some of the more far-flung corners of of BC, or in our case, we had attendees, I think, from over 90 countries attending ClioCon. So that kind of footprint and that kind of reach is something that you would never be able to achieve with an in-person conference. So it comes with a lot of pros and cons. As you pointed out, Jill, you don't have the chicken or the wine, and importantly the personal connections, but you can still build those connections just in a different way in a virtual world. So I see, post-COVID, our world of conference and public speaking being very much hybrid, and I still think there's a world and a role for in-person events when we get back to being able to do those safely. But I think the world as a whole has learned a really important lesson around how we can increase reach and how we can increase accessibility through virtual events.
Yeah, it really has been a game changer in terms of accessibility and democratizing attendance.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And it's a big barrier. We've seen, so much of 2020 has been about what kinds of, systemic biases do we have in the way that we do things. And it's a very privileged thing to be able to do, to get on a plane and fly to a conference and take 2 or 3 days off of your work to attend a physical conference. And there's a lot of people that need that content and need the learnings from that conference that may just not find that to be accessible. So I think it's hugely democratizing, and truly at the end of the day, what you're trying to do with these conferences is drive impact. I think it's a great way of having bigger impact with virtual events.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much for that. One last quick 10-second answer. Any tips for what industry you think might be up for transformation next?
Oh, good question. I mean, I don't have a specific industry to call out, but I would just highlight that I think reading the tea leaves in terms of what industries were ripe for transformation was a lot more difficult pre-COVID. And I think what is the case right now is that every industry is undergoing major transformation. And I think this moment that we're in is one of these once in a lifetime moments to try to truly understand what are those transformations that need to be made in almost every industry that exists, and how can you outmaneuver the incumbents in skating to where that new future is going to be. And it's like the same kind of transformational opportunity that we had with the shift to mobile, the same kind of transformational opportunity we had with the shift to the cloud. These are, opportunities that come along once or twice in a lifetime. And I think the landscape right now is filled with those opportunities. So I think that was a bit more than 10 seconds, Jill, but that's my hot take.
Well, it was a fabulous answer and very inspiring too. So thank you so much. And thank you for being with us today and sharing your thoughts and your ideas. Really, it's been a highlight. It's been a fantastic session. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jill. Really enjoyed it.
All right. And thank you to the audience for some wonderful questions. Just want to say once again, thank you to our generous sponsors, Lyft and Microsoft, for making today's event possible. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. We're going to have more of these events in the new year. Watch your inbox because we'll be sending out invites shortly. And I look forward to seeing many of you in 2021. Happy holidays.